Journey in the heart of Africa. Love, land, and legacy. Habari family. I'm Professor Oka Singer, and I'm coming to you from Kenya. Let's talk because an ancient Kenyan proverb says, talking with one another is loving one another. I cast my fate to the wind when I decided, in 2020, to return to Africa after a nearly 44-year hiatus since leaving Ghana after a 5-year stay in 1976. Cast your fate to the wind is an idiomatic expression that means to take a risk by doing something without knowing what the result will be, essentially leaving the outcome to chance or to forces beyond one's control. It suggests a certain level of surrender to the unpredictability of life, akin to letting go of the attempt to control one's future and instead allowing external factors to dictate the course of events. The phrase can imply a sense of freedom or release from responsibility, as one stops trying to influence or steer the situation and accepts whatever may come. It is often used in the context of making a decision where the consequences are uncertain, and the individual decides to proceed despite not being able to predict or manage the outcome.
Just get us to the rainbow. Just get us to the rainbow. From Los Angeles to Chicago to Addis Ababa to Nairobi to Mombasa. Hit the airports. Was launched into a brand new world. I've come home. Landed in Mombasa, got a cab. He took me to a hotel nearby, left the next morning. Friend of cab driver. Left the next morning to from Mombasa to Nairobi. Along the way, I saw baboons along the road, just sitting there, families of them, just watching the cars go by. Large baboons, oh my goodness. Yeah, at the hotel, other people were stopping. They were stopping for lunch break. It was around that time of day. Saw drinks there that I never saw before. Snacks. People sat down and ate some of their traditional food. I wasn't hungry, I was more fascinated, so I was just watching and walking around everywhere with my camera, snapping things. Saw ravens on the ground that were black and white, mixed, big, could fly wonderfully. The barbecue man. People were enjoying his food a lot. And I was in a hurry going to someplace else, that's why the picture was blurry. Yep, sitting down and eating, people just relaxing, enjoying, laughing with each other, enjoying their company. So many wonderful drinks. Arrived in Meru, saw the emerald green everything, and the beginning, the origins of the river that runs by my current house, or Shamba farm. Government buildings, homes along the main roads, and even took time to go venturing into some of the side neighborhoods to see what it was like. It was beautiful. Schools for the small children. Many of the roads are not paved in the neighborhoods, they're just dirt roads. And when it rains, it can get full of, difficult ruts and difficult to pass. Oh, the gas stations. Lots of cars there. No pollution, not enough cars, I guess. Or very little pollution. A trail that leads to the Catholic Church. Trees that bear wonderful fruit. Simpler houses. Less expensive houses. Government ministries with their own special entrances based on Kenyan traditions and symbology. Roadside vendors that just sit there under trees and shade waiting for somebody to buy something that they may be having to sell. Lots of trees, green trees, green trees, green grass. Meru, the town itself, sits right on the equator. Wonderful equatorial weather. No money for heat, no money for cooling. And I'm happy as Snoopy, jumping. I'll tell you about rainbows in a while. And I'll tell you about more joy in a while. And I'll tell you about some dreams or a dream that I had in a while. So you may enjoy searching what the symbolic meaning is of dreaming about rainbows or references to rainbows. All I know is that in 2019, I had an extremely vivid dream about a future in which a rainbow was being sought as a destination. Ready? You want to hear about it? Okay, here goes. I dreamed I was in my home, standing in the kitchen, as my wife passed by one of the entrance doors opening into the hallway. She was busy carrying some newly washed laundry. I didn't recognize the dream woman as a person I truly knew, but in this dream, she was my wife. There were no children in the dream, for I knew they were grown and likely staying busy with their own lives. As our eyes met, I could read the kindness and trust she still had in me after many years together. She paused by the door and said these cryptic words to me. "Just get us to the rainbow." She then turned away and continued her solitary trip down the hallway. Her words were indeed strange and puzzling to me then, and I wanted to ask her what she had meant, but she was now gone and the dream abruptly ended. My actual wife, who I certainly would have recognized, had passed away due to cancer years earlier, so this woman in my dream was sort of a proxy wife or spouse for any and all men. End of dream. 3 days after my arrival in Kenya, I awoke to another beautiful morning seen from my hotel room. The sky was washed completely clean. During the early morning hours, it had rained heavily off and on for several hours. As I stood on the balcony overlooking the street below, I glanced up and saw the largest and most well-formed rainbow I've ever seen, and have not seen again since. I had been filled with such gratitude for having arrived safely in Kenya, a nation halfway around the world from my birth nation, and which sits happily on the equator. Like the cartoon dog Snoopy, I was jumping for joy inside. Jump, jump, jump! I was bathing in newfound peace and freedom. During this contemplation, I recalled the rainbow dream from years earlier. Was that dream some kind of premonition of actual events to come? It sure seemed like it. Anyway, another chapter was unfolding, and I wasn't about to take a single moment in this enchanting new world for granted.
I recently was speaking with my friend Kinyua. I so much enjoyed attending his young son's circumcision celebration party given when a boy's rite of passage from childhood to manhood is official. Kinyua told me about his 123-year-old grandfather. Yes, 123 years old. Yes, I'm an African from America, but it is clear that I have so much to learn from my brothers on the continent. I want to hear more of their secrets. When I arrived in Kenya in 2020, I was again referred to as a white foreigner known as Mzungu. Oh well. In the intervening years, those who have come to know me well, including my ancestral background, still refer to me as Mzungu. There are so many cultural nuances to understand that I'll probably be working at it until the day I leave the earth. Africa is my full-time home now, and I'm not looking back because I'm a free citizen of the world. Belts don't lie. It's difficult to describe the many changes in my life since arriving in East Africa. Perhaps you have experienced a vast transformation in your life in which it seems you've been transported into a new body. Some parts work better than ever, lol. Some parts just have this cramped feeling. Some sensations have arrived which are brand new. Some brand new aches and pains greet you at the most unexpected times. Glasses are no longer needed for any reason. You wonder where the pounds went and why you ever agreed to live any kind of life in which there is chronic overweightness that just won't go away. New cravings are born and some old ones became lost in the cobwebs. You know, belts don't lie when a brand new healthier lifestyle arrives and those food pathologies were sent whimpering into deep forest never to return. It's likely I'll die and be buried on my Kenyan farm, the one bristling with whole natural foods and watered by a river fed by the melting snows of Mount Kenya and blessed by the spirits of nearby ancient ancestors.
Video. You're going to feed lots of people. They're going to say your food is so sweet because you're a child of Singer. He planted you this day. So grow. You've got good soil. You've got good water. Go. It'll be a good tree. It'll be a happy tree.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to be,
he has a lot of passion.
it's going to be
He's so strong.
Yeah, it's going to be so happy to give fruit to everybody.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen.
And this is one of Africa's, East Africa especially, famous baobab tree. And notice in the upper right-hand corner of the tree, somebody's put a beehive to collect honey. Below it is the river that's supplying lots of water for the needs of the community here. And you can see goats grazing on the other side. I'll show you the waterfall from which the water is taken in a pipe. Oh wow, I didn't see it, folks. There's another beehive right there. People put the beehives high in the tree and get two purposes. One, they can get lots of delicious, oh my God, it's the most delicious honey you ever tasted. And two, these bees will be pollinating the crops that people are growing around here. So it's a complementary thing. And look at that magnificent tree. From the trunk to the big branches above. Yep. Come on, folks, you got to admit, you'd have to be impressed that even long after the snowfall and rain season, the snow that's melting from Mount Kenya is feeding this one river as well as several others. And this is the supply of water that's being given or that's being distributed to the community here throug't the efforts largely of Bishop Peter Karangu. That's why it's being celebrated. Peter,
Yes?
can you explain this occasion?
Yeah. this is an occasion where the Raga culture, when they are circumcised, they normally have an occasion where they eat goats and cows and dance. Sometimes they dance almost 4 days, almost the whole night, till the person is circumcised. So in this family, a young boy has been circumcised before he can go to secondary school. And because of that, that's why I see all the people around with a lot of joy, because now the young boy has now matured into handled food. That's why we are here. And to make it good is that me, Peter Karango, the young man that is circumcised here, he is born of my name. So it's named after me. It's named after me. That means it is me now who is circumcised again. And in that case, that's why they say, oh, it's my occasion now.
And why did they name him after you?
Yeah, it's called Moguna, a person who helps other people. And because I do help the community, they normally call me Moguna, a person who can help. So now this occasion belongs also to me and to the young man that has been circumcised last night. And that's why you see all the Raka community are here to celebrate. As you can see over there, it's a lot of food. The cow has been killed and there are several goats and different food here. So you are also very much welcome to the Raka culture on circumcision.
Tuwekee hiyo wimbo DJ tuweze kuanzia mugithi ya asubuhi ya leo. Kwa hivyo sasa tunaomba tuzunguke kidogo, tunataka kuimba kidogo, tunaomba tuweke kamugithi kidogo tuweze kuanzia siku ya leo.
I hear of very few marriages between our communities which are success stories. This evolutionary path is probably a key to our group's success as American Africans who have returned to Africa under many different circumstances. This would be the ultimate form of ancestral unity with the custodians of the land we meet there. Language, inheritance, children, land, extended family, support, clanship, strong new networks, cultural awareness, location-specific emotional intelligence, and more come with that package.
Energy prices have increased dramatically over the last decade. Some local college students want to combat the problem by inventing new energy-efficient cookware. Consumer reporter Diane Sitek joins us live in the Flint newsroom to show us their inventions. Diane.
Janice, a freshman class project at Kettering University is turning up a lot of ideas on how to make pots and pans better. In today's WNEM5 Consumer Alert, how young minds and their ideas could serve consumers.
We can zoom in and out and look at it closely, see it in its wireframe, and then see it fully shaded and rendered.
They're energy efficient, cost effective, easy to use and to clean, and very marketable. But they're not yet on store shelves.
There's nothing on the market like what we're doing.
Philip Lundberg is just one of nearly 70 freshmen at Kettering University who have teamed up into groups to invent better-made cookware.
Any surface that you have touching the air really has massive heat losses. And so basically you can not feel any heat being transferred because of this aerogel we have.
Aerogel. That's one of the ingredients in this pan. It's what the space industry uses for space vehicles. Other students included copper, ceramic, stainless steel, and glass, but all meet the requirements of being energy efficient.
Well, we have a copper inner core which distributes the heat evenly, and it transfers the heat throughout the whole pot.
Their ideas can help you save money by saving energy.
Research went into actually to decide what we were going to make it out of, because we wanted to make it affordable, so we had to play with different metal.
Your team will strive for simplicity.
Professor Judson Singer stirred up the idea.
Why pots and pans?
Because they're energy-consuming devices, and we'd be fooling ourselves if we felt as though energy prices and the availability is going to continue to be abundant in this part of the world or any other.
It's energy efficient, it'll save energy, which is save money, and it cooks really fast too, because all the energy, all the heat's reserved in it, so it'll make it cook faster, and I guess it'd save money and time, which is important to everybody's daily life.
I think they all deserve a 4 point on this project. If you would like to check it out, all you have to do is go to WNEM.com and click on the Consumer Alert link, because we have linked the Kettering University website to ours. Reporting live in Flint, Diane Sytek, WNEM 5 News.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, they don't have to wait until the next mango season or the next pineapple season or something like that. They can have it now. And that includes tomatoes. We use tomatoes a lot. You know, you can buy tomatoes at the least price in the marketplace, dry it, and then keep it, so that the price you pay for tomatoes remains low during all of the period of time you need it, until all of that dries, and then you can get tomatoes again at a lower price. And once it's dried, you simply take it and add it to the foods you're preparing, and it's just like using fresh tomatoes. It's rehydrating. It's reabsorbing the liquid that was lost when it became dried. That's my primary reason for doing it. I want to see Africa rise. I want to see Kenya rise. And I want to see those steps go slowly by slowly under the people and the work and the inspiration and the passion of the people here, because they know better what's good for them than anybody else in the rest of the world.
Naitwa Nathan Njagi, ofisa ambaye anasimamia idara ya ustawi wa jamii. Kwangu mimi nimekuja kuona hii uvumbuzi ambayo imeletwa na hii kikundi, ambayo kwangu mimi naona
The story of Africa's ascension and the story of diaspora and repatriation will be intertwined and deeply nuanced. My own journey to Africa began 52 years ago in the Republic of Ghana, to a small village outside the capital city of Accra. If Kenya remains hospitable to my stay in Africa, I will consolidate my journey here with African citizenship after the requisite amount of time of having lived here. The mantle of leadership in the effort to repatriate the African diaspora to the continent clearly belongs to Ghana now, but the broader story of what this will all mean 50 years from now and who the major players were in this effort remains to yet be told. Which other prominent names will go down in the history books?
Hello. Habari. My name is Marian Kaplan. I am a journalist who was based in the United Kingdom when I wrote the following story about Professor Oku Singer. In 1976 I traveled to Ghana to interview Oku and his wife about their 5-year adventure in this progressive West African nation. Born in London, I lived as photojournalist and writer in Africa for 20 years. As freelance, I covered a broad range of stories for magazines and newspapers including National Geographic and Time in the United States and The Observer in London. My photographs have also appeared in many books. I first arrived in South Africa in 1956, beginning a decades-long love affair with a continent which has lasted all my life. It is the place in which I feel most at home, and return to most often. Listen to my story about a young African-American family who also loved the continent and twice moved to Africa in search of a better life. Can a Black American go back to the home of his forefathers and find a good and happy life in Africa? For almost 2 centuries U.S. Blacks have been groping for an answer to that question, many returning to Africa to escape slavery and later racism following emancipation, hoping to re-establish their traditional roots in a home and lifestyle they could truly call their own. The exodus began after the American Revolution when blacks found British promises of freedom from slavery a far better choice than servitude and shackles in the South, and then went to Sierra Leone when the Redcoats lost the Revolutionary War. It reached its peak in the Back to Africa movement of Marcus Garvey. The return to Africa continues today, even if involving but a minuscule fraction of the growing Black U.S. population. Africa, now flexing its muscles with its power finally unchained from colonial rule, has become many things to many people, but to many Black Americans the continent of their roots remains as ever a persistent far-off dream. Judson Now Oku Singer is one youthful Black American who made that dream come true when he went there with his new bride, made his home in Ghana, became a father there, worked, laughed, struggled and created in Africa for 5 years. In the truest sense, Oku feels he grew to manhood in Africa and found a full measure of happiness he never knew before. I was able finally to save a life, says Oku. Living without racism was delightful. My wife and I found spiritual freedom, emotional stability and an environment full of love. Yet Africa was not all wine and roses for the Singer family, who are now back in the US as in America. Oku Singer learned that common labor is no way to make a decent living in Africa, and being black was no particular job asset. With that lesson, he and his wife Olubi, formerly Marcia Louise McCrae of Philadelphia, returned to the States with 2 vows: to learn trade skills that will better fit them into the African economy, and most importantly to return once again to Africa to stay. I returned to the United States because the things I'll need are here in abundance, says Singer, and my chances of getting them are greater. I must have basic skills or knowledge that people need. Without these, my horizons are limited. Being black and having romantic ideas about Africa is not enough to merit Africa's love and respect. Then Oku Singer pointedly notes, for example, Africa needs technicians, farmers and trained midwives, rather than AVN representatives, short-order cooks or astrophysicists. He admits that when he went to Ghana, we were not adequately prepared. Consequently, our entire stay was a struggle and a challenge, but we loved most of it and are much better off because of our experience. Born Judson Singer 29 years ago in Columbus, Ohio, to parents in social service, Oku has traveled a long road in his lifestyle and thinking. After schooling in Pasadena, California, and Hawaii, the Army draft in 1967 while attending Pasadena City College sparked the ideas that eventually led to Africa. I was disturbed by how the U.S. was spending its money and the whole war machine, says Oku. My personal belief was that I couldn't deal with that, so I applied for and received conscientious objector status. Instead of the Army, Oku, along with 2 others, established Nairobi Cultural Center, a cultural center in East Palo Alto, a black ghetto. We badly needed something like that in the community. Soon the center and its surrounding community became widely known as Nairobi, California, as an expression of militance and pride in the African heritage of the predominantly black residents in East Palo Alto. I had learned in Hawaii of larger communities and worlds. Nairobi, California was another new experience, one that finally decided me to get out and travel, says Oku. I had been doing research on developing countries, particularly in Africa. I wanted to get out of the technical society, and since my concerns were with arts, I especially wanted to see new cultural worlds. Music, the guitar, occupied me mostly then, but my appreciation was wider as an artist. I considered South America briefly, and the Caribbean. But Africa came to fill my mind, and in the end Ghana was my destination. When Oku arrived in Ghana in May of 1971, he brought with him a new wife, Olubi, tall, slender, as gentle in her ways as her soft-spoken husband. Her name is Yoruba from western Nigeria, An African name acquired long ago, she can't remember when. It was a profound personal experience that turned Judson into Oku. 7 or 8 months before coming to Ghana, he recounts, I was riding with Olubi from Nairobi, California, to San Francisco. It was evening time. We were going to visit a friend, as it happens, a Japanese-American friend. Everything was pleasant. It was just one of those perfect days when good things happen. The sunset was beautiful. The clouds were rolling slowly over the mountains like surf breaking on rocks. I had a feeling of exultation. Tragic events could not change the world that day. Everything was good. I wanted to give a name to that day and called it Okudwim, a word meaning nothing but signifying for me, exultation. Olubi started calling me by that name. We were married 6 months later. In Ghana, Oku sounds by coincidence like many names, and everyone simply called me Oku. The sound and significance of names is important to Oku and Olubi. When a beautiful, almond-eyed daughter was born to them 3 years ago in Ghana, they called her Nonkululego Yatunde. They wanted a name that meant freedom, born free. The Zulu name Nonkululego is close to that. And, as it happens, smiles Oku, there's even a second material meaning. Hospital birth costs here, as compared with America, were so low then, no more than $2. But when Oku and Olubi came to Ghana, there was no Nonkululego. They came with a 45-day return ticket and the intention to visit. But we found it so interesting, such a pleasant change, that our stay extended. Just the physical environment and different culture was so stimulating. We decided to stay longer, and I enrolled at the University of Ghana in Legon in the Institute of African Studies, concentrating on African music. This was an exploratory stage. Oku and Olubi had savings then, and the cost of living was low. They were looking and learning, delighting in Ghana's exuberance and good fellowship. One day Oku, who is a skillful musician on guitar, sitar, flute, drums and African thumb piano, was asked to join a highlife band. For $2 a day or less, usually less, he played with F. Kenya's richest big band, traveling around with them to play at cocktail parties in Accra, the capital, or in small rural communities where mime and drama were mixed with the highlife sound to entertain villagers. Language was something of a difficulty, but Oku soon picked up fragments of the many dialects in the Akan group: Brong, Ashanti, Fanti, Akim, Nazima. At the coast, where he settled, he and Olubi had to know some Ga and Twi. But they managed. They learned to manage in other ways. Oku's income was negligible, their savings about gone, and even in the area some distance from Accra, where they made their home, costs were rising. Music could no longer sustain me, said Oku, financially as well as in terms of my enthusiasms. More and more I moved towards visual arts and began making handicraft objects that people would like. In addition, Oku taught arts and crafts at school, first at the Ridge Church School in Accra, later the Morning Star Preparatory School. I liked working with children, he says. You find out so much from what they say, and they have so little to lose by being honest. Oku and Olubi gradually settled into Ghanaian life. They made friends in the artists' informal world. Oku, too, was developing skills in himself he was previously unaware of. He found that could use his mind and his hands to make things, and it became his unstated objective to improvise for himself and his family most of the things they needed for daily living. He made a cooking stove, a bed, the child's cradle, chairs, tables, shelves. He made a workbench for himself and necessary tools from car parts. He made a furnace for smelting from collected fire bricks by using slow-burning palm kernels for fuel. He made a vise from scrap auto parts. He fixed up his own fluorescent light fixture from wood, turned a bicycle dynamo into a flashlight, and a lampstand into a work of art, interweaving carvings of man born in liberation with woman through an Ashanti Adinkra symbol standing for unity. Olubi, too, was expanding her own world. She built up an institute of African learning through which she taught nursery school classes to neighborhood children. Olubi's school was announced outside their house in Medina by a sign that has infinitely more charm than the usual school boards. In their yard hangs a wind chime that makes gentle sounds and looks compatible with the tree it hangs from. I like an interesting environment, says Oku. One small room of their house was a private gallery exhibiting works entitled, From Dust to Dust, in which a woman gives birth while death a skeleton awaits. There were more cheerful pieces like Mr. and Mrs. Dignity and Muhammad Ali, Son of Africa, both of which were put on exhibit at Ghana's National Museum of Art in the capital of Accra, Ghana. In the front of his house a welcome sign made from horn, feather, calabash, a twist of metal, spool and bits of this and that. On a door a design labeled, with humor and self-mockery, Oku's art thing, was hung. Quite the most outstanding of Oku's many sculptures, artworks, creations and contrivances was the wedding bracelet he made for his wife Olubi. They both preferred the idea of bracelet to wedding ring, and the finely wrought silver was Olubi's most cherished possession. But changes had to occur in the lives of the couple simply out of economic necessity. I learned something of the subtleties, the dynamics and nuances of life in Ghana, Oku says, but there was no hold. Ghana was the only African country we'd seen. We felt we needed to go somewhere else. I like being in Ghana and I like the opportunities, but the profession of artist is a very precarious one. I knew if I was to continue, I must study, expand my knowledge, acquire further education, discover new circles. The criterion to be met was that whatever I learned must be something the world needs. An artist, a sculptor, has difficulties in a narrow field, but in the broader area of design all kinds of opportunities and needs exist. So I decided to go back to America and develop more skills. Ghana was a vital, enriching experience. As an Africa-descended person I have an idea now of what Ghana is about. But I'm part of a larger human family. I want to move, to travel, and look after my family. Now back in the States, Oku reports, I found to get all the knowledge I can on the casting of metal and general foundry work at both the practical and technical level. This will be a valuable supplement to my knowledge and skill as an artist. My one big lesson learned in Africa is that we black people need nation-building skills, skills to make us self-reliant. Oku Singer sums up his 5 years in Africa. During my stay many things impressed me and many things disappointed me. The natural harmonious way of life was an overwhelming experience. Sensitive people can live peaceful and fulfilling lives in Africa, but America crushes them or causes them to develop tough shells from which they rarely emerge. Africans are naturally gracious and hospitable folk, and making friends is easier than breathing, he continues. People there do everything together. There are few secrets that remain secrets long. This helps to ensure the well-being of the community. Africans living together in a community love each other in ways we of the West may someday come to learn. The Africans we met struck a nice balance between pride and humility, and self-image is not much of a problem as it is with Afro-Americans. Speaking of black life in the States, Oku becomes somewhat more emotional and declares, during my 5 years of absence, it seems conditions are worse for the country in general and black folks in particular. We are succumbing to a well-orchestrated program against our freedom. We are unmistakably colonized people, and an atmosphere is being created to kill our revolutionary fire on the one hand, while the stage is being set which will allow for the severest repression against blacks and other poor people. We continue to be our own worst enemy. We African Americans have no overall unifying philosophy, and we're continuing to do our own thing to our detriment. If I were to bring a personal message from Africa to the brothers and sisters here, I'd say that mainstream American life will only compound our problems, and we'd better quickly create some alternatives. We buy liquor, dope, flashy cars and clothes which we don't produce before we'll build or buy our own homes, or support liberation efforts. Not uncritical of Africa either, Singer found it dismaying bribery and corruption which is widespread, and admits, Afro-Americans who travel to Africa soon realized that though we call ourselves poor, we are much better off materially than the masses of Africans. Oku found disturbing the fact that strong traces of the colonial mentality still has Africans thinking that which is foreign is superior and that which is indigenous is inferior. A return to African roots is not for most U.S. blacks, he warns. Any New World Black returning to Africa must be able to regard Africans as equals, Oku declares. We've stirred some bad feelings in the past by truly coming off as ugly Americans full of condescension. We've cried out for telephones, hamburgers and discos while refusing to integrate ourselves into the unique experiences of the life and culture at hand. There are definitely African ways of doing things, and disregarding these, being unable to adjust, will only create problems. Anybody who can accept people's differences should find lots of friends in Africa. I made more intimate friends in Ghana than anywhere I've ever lived. The best advice I could give to Afro-Americans traveling to Africa would be to be themselves. Being positive gets more mileage than being slick. We are each individual ambassadors in a sense of the largest and newest Bayak tribe in the world, and have more skilled manpower and education than any other. In Africa we are viewed as exotic strangers, and first impressions are indelible. If we are beautiful people, we'll allow ourselves options in trying to create the realities we dream of. If we're niggers, we'll blow a potentially dynamite scene, and nothing would please our oppressors more. Finally, Oku Singer reports that an income of $4,000 a year or more would allow the average Black American to live comfortably in rural areas or in the city. Adapting to African foods and customs is not difficult generally, because their cuisine can hold its own against any other, although some foods definitely require getting used to, he notes. A warning from Singer is that no African government has openly expressed a willingness to accept Afro-American expatriates, and survival there is considerably more challenging than in the U.S., but the intangible benefits of being in the motherland makes life's struggles infinitely more worthwhile, at least to me. Oku and Olubi never had much money, but they had a dream they fulfilled for 5 years in Africa, living with love and moderation, enjoying the essence of life, learning and art. They answered a call of their heritage, yet realizing that Africa is part of a large world, and seeking to find their place, both Africa and the world at large. They are going back one day, confident of fulfilling their personal vision of a beautiful